Welcome to JK Not Really.
Season 2, episode 11. And I have a burning question for you.
A burning question. I'm terrified.
Good. That means I want you to be. No, I'm kidding. Kind of. I'm not kidding. Okay. So on my algorithm in social media recently, and I'm curious to see if it's the same for you. There is a topic that I have seen brought up more so on social media in the past few months than I ever have. And it is the topic of narcissistic partners. And I
Mm.
just feel like when you were going through what you were going through, and I was learning what a narcissist was for the first time, I felt like it wasn't talked about too much in especially on social media. But now I just see these reels of like when your narcissistic partner does this, or when your narcissistic parent does this, like not just with romantic partners, like it's talking about narcissism with parents, with romantic partners, with bosses, like all these different types of relationships. And some of them are like poking fun at it, but then others are like I saw one that said when the narcissism hits, and it said like I did something wrong, but now you hate me, so I'm the victim. And just like
God.
dialogue surrounding like the manipulation of narcissists. Why do you think that this is so prevalent right now compared to a few years ago? And what do you just have to say about that?
What a question.
I told you I was burning to ask.
Oh, I bet. I bet. So, yes, this has been a trend that I've been seeing too on my algorithm as well. And this goes into what we talked about last episode of just more awareness of diagnoses and individuals just talking about mental health in general. So my personal and professional opinion of it is that yes, I do believe that there's certain characteristics and traits that possess narcissism. However, to diagnose somebody with narcissistic personality disorder is pretty severe. And an individual needs to fit a robust amount of criteria to fit into that. Hence, I don't think everybody, your boss, your parents, your children, your friends, your neighbors are narcissists. I just think they resemble some characteristics and traits here and there.
Okay. So, do you believe that it is possible to have a relationship that could be long lasting with someone that has narcissistic tendencies that you have to work out versus, oh no, you are a true narcissist? Like, what is the difference there?
Um, the major difference is with a true narcissist, they are not going to recognize their behaviors, their traits, and what they're going to do is they're going to spin the narrative and then point it on you, stating you're the one that needs to work on it. You're the one that can't handle emotions. You're the one that can't handle feedback and the truth. Whereas an individual that possesses traits and behaviors, if you call them out and they can take a step back and recognize it and they want to work on it, that's the major difference right there. Because a lot of individuals that are raised with narcissistic parents take on some of those traits because that's what they know, that's what they think is normal. But for you to say, like, hey, that made me feel a certain way, and for them to say, can you explain why? Why do you feel that way? How can we fix this?
Got it.
Versus, hey, you made me feel that way. A narcissist would say, well, good, you should sit in that feeling for a little bit longer because you really fucked up.
Mm-hmm.
You're lucky that I'm still with you and talking with you right now.
Right, that gaslighting.
Oh, constantly. Hmm.
And that's
Hmm.
what I think the misconception is. I think that people, again, are so quick to just, you're this and you're this, where it's like, correct me if I'm wrong, but narcissism is a personality disorder, correct?
Correct. Yes.
So it's like, if that's dangerous, I think it's dangerous to just box someone in as having a disorder if they don't have a diagnosis.
I completely agree with that. And I think a lot of people are calling others out to be narcissists just because of how sharp some responses are.
Yeah.
However, we're also missing a lot of other traits, but the narcissist is so grandiose in their thoughts and so charismatic as well. It's like they put on this mask for certain people, and for others, it's this intense abuse that they do. And for a narcissist, they feel as if they're higher than everybody else, and they have like this godly power that nobody else can reach.
I know, unfortunately, I feel like it's becoming a little bit of a buzzword.
I agree. And I see this a lot with individuals that have a significant amount of trauma, individuals that truly suffered from narcissistic abuse or any abuse in general. We don't like talking about it. We don't like labeling it. And that's what I'm seeing the trend of people that were severely abused are more kind of silent in a way, whereas others that are not, that truly don't understand it, are the ones that are naming it and talking about it more.
And that's my fear. I think like I want that type of disorder to come to light because of what you went through. And kind of a little bit, I mean, well, I'm not you, so this is just what I observed from you. I think there was a little bit of a hesitation to accept your type of abuse versus ones that are a little more outright or physical. Because I think at that time, narcissistic abuse and emotional verbal abuse, and I think still to this day, for whatever reason, there's a stigma even surrounding that of it not being as bad as it could be. You know what I mean? It's like, well, you weren't being pushed down the stairs, so were you really abused? And it's like, well, that's not right. So I do appreciate the dialogue around it. My fear is that it's going to be like a buzzword situation and an over labeling situation, which takes away from your actual experience and people like you.
Couldn't agree with you more. And just want to emphasize individuals that don't want to talk about it, it's usually because we want to distance ourselves from what happened. Because once we claim that happened, there's a lot of awareness and new emotions and memories that come to light with that. And with narcissistic abuse, a lot of individuals are going to have a lost sense of self, sense of direction in who they are. Whereas it's completely different from other people that you're seeing on social media because they are so stern in who they are. They are fighting back, they are challenging this individual. That doesn't happen in a cycle of narcissistic abuse.
Probably because you're so conditioned, right?
To a certain degree, yeah, and you also feel so alone. It's interesting because like I reflect sometimes. I'm like, I had so many people supporting me. Like I had you that was 10 minutes down the street. I had my family that would fly out when needed. I had friends, but I had like such tunnel vision that I felt like I truly had no one because I was so conditioned to believe that no one truly liked me or loved me or wanted to help me. Nobody was actually going to believe me because the mask that he put on towards others.
And that just goes to show like it really isn't a one size fits all. Like just because you're a victim of domestic abuse doesn't mean you're this, lone wolf or that you don't have a circle or that you're not a bubbly extrovert at times. Like I think it just goes to show that it could happen to anyone.
I question myself. I'm just like, oh my goodness, like I have a master's degree in mental health and psychology. I know it, snap, snap, snap.
Snaps, we love a degree.
I know exactly what is going on here. And like there was moments that I remember looking at myself in the mirror, acknowledging that I'm in an abusive relationship. But then half of me is just like, I can't get out of this, and I'm a committed, loyal person. I'm gonna follow through and I'm gonna show people wrong and I'm gonna change him. Yeah, self-destructive mode right there.
Yeah, so I think like what would be, because I do understand and I see it in my life. Sometimes, unfortunately, people I love at moments, I'm like, oh, it's kind of a narcissistic tendency, or oh, that's kind of like a narcissistic thing to do. But in my brain, I'm like, oh, well, that doesn't necessarily make you a narcissist. So let's say if you have a narcissistic parent, because that's one that I think a lot of people are dealing with. What does that conversation look like if you feel as if there is a little bit of gaslighting maybe from one of your parents? What does that look like?
Gaslighting?
Like the conversation, like when you want to navigate, this is how you're making me feel. Like almost like how do you promote accountability, I guess is my question. If you feel like someone in your life is having narcissistic tendencies.
There's no conversation to be had. What you need to do is set boundaries for yourself. And if you see that individual, like your parent, respecting those boundaries, then okay, then maybe a conversation can be had later on. But if you set boundaries and they're not respecting it, then it seems as if they could have more tendencies and represent the personality disorder. And then you have to decide for yourself, is it worth engaging in those conversations? Because at a certain point, it's a disorder. They're so fixated on responding and manipulating others that they can't have like a gray area of thought to think differently.
Okay.
It's just like, let's say we both have anxiety from time to time. And it's like, yeah, just don't have anxiety. Just don't worry.
Don't do that.
You just laugh because that's literally impossible to do. It's a disorder, it's a diagnosis. You can't change them.
And I think that's hard. I think when people, especially parents, and especially if you love them, when they're not respecting a boundary or they make you feel guilty for advocating for yourself or guilty for standing your ground, I think it's really hard to not want to please them. I think, as children, we always want to please our parents. We want to make our parents proud. We want to make them happy. And I think that I could definitely speak for myself as especially as I've gotten older and I've gotten a little bit better with advocating for what I need and what I want to do or what I don't want to do. When I feel like there's a little bit of a guilt trip happening, I have to really be intentional with not letting that get the best of me. And that's hard.
It's so hard because, yeah, as human beings, we're always going to want that relationship from our parents. We're always going to strive for having this beautiful, like transparent dynamic. And unfortunately, that's not going to happen. So sometimes as individuals, we need to mourn that relationship. It's not what we have right now.
Or just accept like this is going to be tough. Like, but I'm not going to budge. I know that my parent loves me unconditionally. That's not going to go away just because I'm not doing what they want me to do right now. Like you will get past, I think. Like if you do have a at least somewhat healthy relationship with your parents, I think there's something to be said with just like bearing down and just being like, I can get through this. This is not what I want to do. I'm not going to give in. And that's okay.
And with that, that's more of growth that's needed from you. And it's not pinpointing like, oh my gosh, like they represent narcissistic like traits. No, you need to work on your boundaries, how you view yourself and what you give to others. And this kind of leads me into my question for you.
Okay. So excited. Can't you tell?
I can tell some anxiety.
Oh yeah. Boom, 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 boom. Like I'm starting to sweat as we're talking about anxiety. I'm like, great. I know she like has a question for me. So
Some deep breaths,
Yeah.
regulate the nervous system.
Who saw?
But I want to talk to you about your journey of putting yourself first and pleasing yourself and your needs. Because I know that has been so hard for you. And I know that you do struggle, but as one of your best friends, I've seen so much growth from you over the past couple of years. Like it's so beautiful to really see yourself like really establishing, like, no, this is what I want to do with my husband.
And
But I
that's
could
just,
imagine how hard it is.
yeah, it sucks. Well, first of all, this I can tell you know me because you know that I'm a big words of affirmation girl. So that just made my heart super warm and was really validating for me. So thank you. Yeah, it sucks. It's not an easy process. It's gritty. It's it's also, I think it's more of what you said. It's more so not pointing the finger at them and pointing it at myself. I think it's really easy to say, oh, I feel this way because of this happening growing up. I feel this way because of what you did here and you and you and you. And I think that there's space for that. I think those are all factors. But I think it's like, well, wait a minute though. Why is my response to do this? Why am I, if I know that's not going to make me happy, why am I allowing myself to do it then? Which kind
Mm,
of relates more back to what do you value your own happiness? Do you value um, putting you and your husband first as your immediate family? Is that important to you? Because you claim that it is, but I don't think your actions represent that.
wow.
So I mean, it's not. Yeah, when I say it sucks, I'm not kidding. Like it's not easy to um, accept the faults that you have and the mistakes that you've made and the patterns that you have allowed yourself to have. Um, but I think it's small steps. I think it's, nope, that weekend doesn't work for me. And just, and that's okay. I wish I could be there. I'm there in spirit. It doesn't work for me. I hope that I'm going to be able to see you in a couple months. Like that's when I think my schedule is going to be more easier. I think it started there for me. Um, I think having a partner that you it's kind of what you said. Like it's really hard to believe the good things people say about you. It's a lot easier to believe the bad things. So I think when you have people in your life that say, but you're not like that and you don't have to do that and you would tell yourself not to do that, so why are you doing it? I think that makes a big difference because it's almost like a slap in the face. It's like, wait a minute, like you're right. If this were you, I would be like, no, that's not good for your mental health, that's not good for your relationships, that's not good for you financially. That was a huge jerk. I'm still on it, like just literally going bankrupt. Okay, not bankrupt, I'm not a conglomerate.
Bankruptcy.
No, but putting myself in dire financial stress and credit card debt to make a bachelorette. Like
Yeah.
I did that for years. And it's
Yeah.
like, what are you doing? Like that is not appropriate behavior. And so that's also what I went through. It's just I think all of that, and I rambled a little bit, but I think what I come back to is don't allow yourself, and you relate to this, don't allow the intrusive and people pleasing and guilt trips win. You don't owe someone an explanation. If it doesn't work for you, if it doesn't work for you and your family, if it doesn't work for you financially, if it doesn't work for your schedule, you don't owe people an explanation. And that's the trap that I still fall into. I feel that I need to explain myself. Like, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry I can't make it. I'm just going through the. No, I'm so sorry I can't make it and I love you is enough.
Absolutely. And it's so easy for us to do that to one another because we're on like such a same page. But for others, I hear you on that. And for me, it's like recognizing like, who am I trying to please? Them or me?
Yeah. And it's like, I think there sometimes you make sacrifices for the people you love and you do things you don't want to do. I'm not going to sit here and say that's not a thing. It is. But I
Yeah,
think when there are significant negative consequences to you doing that, you need to look in the mirror and be like, what do you need to work on? Because clearly your values and your actions are not lining up.
completely agree with that. So for you, it's a continuous journey
Yeah.
on putting yourself first and pleasing yourself versus accommodating for others.
And allowing myself to seek affirmation. I mean, I can't tell you how many times over this past Christmas because we decided to just stay in Tennessee. Like we traveled to New Jersey on a weekend that worked for us to make some rounds, but we weren't able to see all of my family. Certainly didn't see everyone that I wanted to see, but it just didn't work out.
Yeah.
And as my siblings and I have more kids, we're all in different states. It's just not possible to all be in the same
No.
place at the same time. And that's hard. That's kind of like grieving a loss of holidays and traditions. And that's hard, right? And I think that's why a lot of those feelings and responses come up because it's
Yeah.
like, I think Christmas time for a lot of people or whatever you celebrate, it is a time where you kind of nurture your inner child a little bit. I think
Yeah.
it is that time where it's magical and it's festive and you have all those memories of loved ones. So I think it is grieving a loss kind of when other things come into the picture. But I can't tell you how many times I said to Andrew, "Oh, nothing bad happened. Like I did this and no one's mad at me." And everyone kind of did their own thing this year and everyone was okay. And
Wow.
I've said that multiple times out loud, just like the world didn't end. No one hates me. Like, you know what I mean? Like,
Oh, yeah.
but
It
it
can
feels that way.
No, it truly does. Yeah, because we think worst case scenario. And I always like tell my clients, so we have like your worst case scenario, let's list it, and then we have best case scenario. Usually what happens lies between the two.
Love that.
And that tends to help a little bit, really like change your mindset on how much your anxiety is dictating these thoughts.
And I think to what you said, you and I don't have that issue with each other,
No.
right? So I think, and I don't have that issue with a lot of like, it's great. I think reminding yourself that those relationships exist are also a game changer. Because
Yeah.
if you don't, then you can fall into people pleasing, guilt trip, all that stuff. Like sometimes I have to remind myself, well, that's not a reaction from everyone in my life. So, like, you know what I mean? Like sometimes it's like really like looking at the responses of multiple relationships in your life and thinking, well, how did we get there? What did we put in place? Because obviously we've done it, I've done it before if I have this relationship, right?
I
So
think that's
it's,
a great way to think of it, though.
yeah,
Absolutely. Because you deserve healthy relationships
yeah.
throughout your lifespan. And if you can be like, well, if I can have it with one person, why can't I have it with this person? Like, what is really going on?
And I think it's like even picking that person's brain. Like there have been times where like I text you and I'm like, what did we do to establish these norms in our friendship? What do we allow ourselves and not allow ourselves to do? Because it is kind of serving as a reminder of very tangible possible things that you can implement into any relationship.
Absolutely. And I think what we nailed on the head pretty quickly was vulnerability and expression of self.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Like it sucks. Like if you're
Yeah.
someone like me that like always has a brave face on and is super optimistic and glass half full and will always be there to like give advice to others. Like if you're someone that struggles taking your own advice and being vulnerable and like all that stuff, like it's not fun. I'm not gonna sit here and be like, yeah, this has just been like a beautiful journey. And like, yeah, like no, it's been a necessary journey. It's been a monumental one, but it's you have to be ready. You have to be ready to just be like, dang, like I'm a little messed up.
I'm a little kooky.
Yeah, like we need to work on this. Like,
Yeah. Yeah. No, because like once you kind of like let that go a little bit, there is a sense of like what's going to happen. Oh my gosh, I shouldn't have done that. But more than likely, it's resolved with positive feelings. Like I'm really happy that I released that or talked to them about that.
Yeah, I think for sure the end result, I think in any self work is going to be rewarding. It's just accepting the fact that it's not going to be easy.
Hmm. Hmm. Nothing is point blank.
Yeah. So we're on it. We're still on it. I'm sure. But then, I mean, in 2 weeks, I could, and it's also like allowing yourself, like some days it is one step forward, two steps back. Like it ebbs and flows.
Yeah, but I also like the steps back because you acknowledge, okay, what happened for me to have that step back and what do I need to move forward then? It's always needed. I mean, I think it's impossible to continue like having those steps forward. We're human beings. We're gonna make mistakes. Let's
Right.
learn from them.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
Oh, yeah, wow. Some interesting questions, that's for sure.
I know. I felt I woke up today and like chose violence. I was like, I just want to like catch her off guard.
Don't you always?
Yeah, but
Yeah.
today I was like, I'm going into it. Like other times I feel like I'm like, ooh, I thought of this and I'm just gonna like throw her a curveball. Today I was like, I'm doing it. I'm gonna get her.
Yeah, yeah, thanks. Love that.
Whatever.
Truly.
You matched my energy. Don't sit there and act like you didn't.
Okay, facts. I
Yeah,
had to. If you're gonna throw something at me, I'm gonna throw it back.
and that's fair. That's fair. Are there any on a lighter note? I've been in such a total change of topic, but I was just thinking about like journey and we talked about intentions last year and this is only our second episode of 2025. So I'm an English teacher. I love reading. I have been in such a reading slump. Like the
Mm.
last like 5 months, like there was a point in time where Andrew and I were going to bed at like 8 p.m. because we were so excited to read for 2 hours. Like I'm telling you, we were like in it. And then we were so out of it. So like beyond. Like I haven't picked up a book in so long. So my other intention, which I think for me falls under like self-care, is I want to get back to my minimum of like my 30 minutes of reading a day. Cause that really like, even if you're not an avid reader, like I do recommend it. Like for me, it's an escape. Like it's just I get to go to another world and deal with different characters and be on my phone less. Like I don't want as my screen time is disgusting right now.
I think a lot of screen time is disgusting for people. I think it's because of the holidays too. We tend to like relax a little bit more. We tend to eat more. We drink a little bit more. We excuse those behaviors, and it's really hard to get back on it.
It is.
I
And
mean,
I think, go ahead.
I was gonna say, I feel you on that. I'm like, I've been wanting to read. I have a book on my nightstand. I just can't open it.
Same. And I think what you said, like, you know how sometimes I get like a little like witchy hippie.
Yes.
So recently, because my algorithm sometimes features stuff like that, it's very like winter solstice. And like
Oh.
it's very natural, like within our souls and our beings and the changing of the seasons, like to around this time of year to like be indoors and not be as social. And like that's natural when you look at nature and other animals and all of that stuff. So I think like don't beat yourself up over like, man, I haven't like hung out with people in a while, or I didn't get outside that much today. It's like there's something to be said with just like following that new rhythm and that season and just like cuddling up with a book, turning your phone off, like being a little antisocial for a while because it is what you said. I feel like the holidays, it's like you fire on all cylinders.
Yeah, yeah. So is it more of like being a hermit in the best way possible?
Yeah, I
Yeah.
think there's like a big negative connotation to that, and I get it. But I think specifically with the winter months, I think that's kind of beautiful. I think that there's space for that to be like, I'm meant to be maybe cuddled up on the couch right now with a cup of tea and a book, and I haven't even looked at my phone in 3 hours. And yeah, maybe that means I didn't call so and so back. That's all right. I'll call tomorrow.
I think that's great, honestly. And I think we should all like take point in that too, how we can be our own little hermit. Um, but to go the opposite way, which I usually do with you, there was an interesting podcast I'm listening to now, and it's going over just the effects of exercise and mental
Mhm.
health and especially depression. It's going over different like hormones that are released and like medications versus exercising. And like how beautiful would it be for you to like just get your steps into on a
Oh
daily
yeah,
basis and then end with a good book?
for sure.
Because I feel like you with Hunty, we don't have a fence yet, so we need to walk the pups. And I noticed that my mental health has skyrocketed just because of these walks. I'm like, how beautiful is this morning walk now, or this evening walk with my husband? And we're just talking about our day.
I am so pumped that you brought this up because Andrew, so for years, ever since we got Hunter, like he's just, I love him, but he's a prima donna. Like he refuses to go to the bathroom in our great fenced in backyard. He was the same way in Colorado. He will only go to the bathroom if you walk him. But it's forced us ever since we got him 4 years ago to do a full morning walk and then an evening walk, or sometimes two walks in the evenings, depending on the weather. So Andrew just sent me like on social media, and it said like the benefits of daily walks with your partner and daily walks in general, with like no screen time, shared dialogue, active exercise and endorphins, a routine. Like I even, because like an Apple Watch for Christmas, I even
Oh.
you know, new year, new me. Just kidding. Like it recognized when I was on an outdoor walk when we were walking Hunter, and I was like, dang, like it's been 25 minutes and we got in like a mile. Like, not saying that like a mile is like monumental, but just for like a little 20-minute walk with our dog, and I got like a mile in, like that's awesome.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more. And like, I think those little steps any individual can do.
Mhm.
And like Steve and I, it snowed the night prior, but it was the new year. And we're like, I really want to go to a little hike with you. And it's like an easy hike. And we bundled up and we had our coffee and we just talked. And I felt so good after.
Oh, it's amazing. It's amazing what happens when you're just, which it sounds and it does represent in some ways how far away we've gotten as a society. Because think about what we just talked about, just walking outdoors with someone you love and the positive effects of that. Like
Yeah,
that's something that we've gotten away from.
I completely agree. And if you don't have somebody that you love, put on a podcast, call a friend, call your parents, or just be by yourself.
Yeah, I mean, even in the mornings, because I walk Hunter by myself in the mornings before work, and I see other people walking their dogs and they're listening to audiobooks or gospel readings or a podcast, like you said. Like if you're by yourself, there are definitely ways where you can still have that interaction.
Yeah, it's still good for you.
And it's
All
small
right.
steps, like you said.
Yeah, definitely small steps. So get your steps in, get your pages in.
Steps and pages. That's our little mantra now.
Yes, I love it. Steps and pages. But again, thanks for firing away those questions. And I think it's necessary to talk about, and I hope it reaches others as well. And if you are struggling, there are a lot of support systems out there that you can look up. I know Tessa is a big one. But and then Psychology Today if you need to find a provider to really help you navigate some issues.
That's always so good because there are a lot of resources out there that people just unfortunately might not know about.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, thanks for listening, guys, and we will see you in the next one.
Bye.